Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Common StackVision Errors and Their Resolution webinar. I'm Taylor Hempel, and I'm a marketing specialist here at ESC Spectrum. Today's our system support engineer to Quinn, Lesar, and Ismael Tapia will talk about common StackVision challenges and errors and how to solve them. Just a reminder to hold any questions you have until the end and type them in the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen. After the presentation is over, I'll read out the questions and they will answer them to the best of their ability. With that being said, let's begin.
Hello, my name is Ismael Tapia. I'm originally from Pasadena, Texas, which is just southeast of Houston. I went to the University of Texas and got a degree in communication, hook 'em horns. Prior to working at ESC Spectrum, I was working on FedEx shipping servers and troubleshooting them and their issues. I've been here at ESC Spectrum in March, it'll be 7 years. So we did this presentation for user groups, but 7 years is right around the corner. So my coworker Quinn is up next.
Hi, good morning. My name is Quinn. I'm originally from Madison, Wisconsin. I attended Texas A&M University, where I got my Bachelor of Science in Petroleum Engineering. I originally worked in the oil field for a little bit, and then just like Izzy, March is my 3-year anniversary working at ESC. So I'm excited to hit that mark, and excited to give this presentation today.
All right. So basically what we're going to be going over is going to be examples of common errors within StackVision. Now, these are just examples of issues that we see on a pretty daily basis, and a lot of these issues detail but aren't limited to communication issues, ProcessNow errors, especially UDR error and ProcessNow being stuck in a starting state. There's some screen display settings that we need to go over, reports that are missing or blank, and errors when attempting to start a StackVision application. Very first thing we're going to go ahead and go over is going to be communication issues, communication errors. Okay, so one of the first things to determine if you're having a communication issues, you usually receive an alarm coming in directly to StackVision. To verify that alarm, you could go to from the StackVision menu at the top, View, then Active Alarms, and then if you go over to the System tab, you should be able to see if there's any ongoing communications that have happened at the moment and how consistently they've been coming in and out. The other section you can look at is in the bottom right-hand section to the right of the computer name and to the right of the date and time is you'll see a little satellite dish in the bottom. And if you have a little red triangle, that'll also let you know if there's a communication issue going on as well. And lastly, one of the other things you can check is going to be controller tools. If you go to the tools menu at the very top and go down to controller tools will show you a list of all of your active data loggers and controllers. If it's red, that basically means your communication is non-existent at that point. Green is good, green is active, but red, in any case of communication issue scenarios, basically means your communications are dead. The first thing you'll want to verify when it comes to a communication issue is verifying if your StackVision services are running. Now, to verify if your StackVision services are running, you'll only really be able to verify that on the actual StackVision server. From the StackVision server, you're going to want to go to the run command or the search command and type in services, or in this case, services.msc. You're going to want to go to the Windows Start menu, go to Run, and type services.msc. That'll bring up your Windows Services menu, and it'll give you a list of all of your Windows services that are currently active. If you scroll down to the bottom, you should see your StackVision services. If you don't, then that pretty much means that you're on the client at that point. If you look at your StackVision services and you see that there's a service that's blank, that's going to be your service that's probably causing the communication issue. In this case, it's going to be the StackVision server service. Pardon me. If you right-click the StackVision server, you should be able to go ahead and click Start and restart the service. Once the service is active, let's see here. Once the service is active, then you should be able to see it running at that point. The very next step would be restarting the services and clearing the temp.f folder, which is going to be the temporary files folder. This is just going to be another way of verifying services as well. If you close the StackVision service, and if you go to the Windows Start menu, go to the StackVision folder. Within the StackVision folder, you should see the StackVision Services Helper. The StackVision Services Helper, if you don't have access to the Windows Services application, will allow you to stop and restart the services as well. So just keep that in mind. From there, you're going to want to navigate to the temp.f folder, which in this case is going to be whichever drive StackVision is going to be installed on. Go to the StackVision folder, the application folder, the data folder, and then the temp.f folder. And you should see all the files that are sitting there. A lot of these files are going to be sitting here because of your communication issue, and they could be due to a corrupt file. What you'll want to do is you'll want to create a new folder within the temp.f folder itself. Copy and cut all these files from the current temp.f folder to the new folder, and then delete the files that are remaining within the temp.f directory, excluding the new folder that you have available. From there, you're going to want to go back to the StackVision Services Helper menu, and you're just going to go ahead and restart all services again. Usually, this is going to be one of our most common troubleshooting steps, and 9 times out of 10 it works, and it's great. For those other issues, we do have to continue troubleshooting at that point. One thing that you'd be able to do to verify if you have communications on a network level is you could ping your controller. You'd want to go to the run command again and type in the command prompt, and you'd want to go ahead and ping your IP address for the controller itself with the 8864. In this scenario here, we'll have 2 examples. The example on the left is an example of the successful pinging of the 8864. On the left-hand side, you have 4 packets sent, 4 packets received, and 0 loss, basically. And it's a successful communication. On the right, you'll see that when you try to ping the 8864 based off the IP address, 4 packets sent, but there wasn't any kind of feedback. It received 0 bits of communication and has 100% loss on that end. From there, you move on to pinging the server from the actual 8864. So in this case, you're going to want to go to, once you're logged into the 8864, you're going to want to go to the status menu, system maintenance, and connectivity test. I actually have a little video here that kind of shows that, so let's bring that up here. Once you get to the connectivity test, you're going to go ahead and ping, and you're going to want to go ahead and type in the IP address of the StackVision server, and then start ping. And it'll take a few seconds here, but it'll verify whether or not it's a successful test on its own. Okay, in this case, with this example, it did try to communicate with the StackVision server. However, the server was not able to communicate back. So it did send 4 packets of communication. However, the server was not able to reciprocate, and it was 100% packet loss. Oh. Another thing you can do when it comes to communications is you could try to go ahead and physically reboot the controller. You can log into the data controller, and you could go to status menu, hit U and hit reboot, and that's going to allow you to automatically reboot the controller directly from the actual 8864. Otherwise, you could actually flip on the on and off switch from the back of the data controller. the bottom right-hand corner of the data controller, you will see the power selection. It's just a little flip. You can power cycle it for about 15 seconds, turn it back on, and hopefully your communication should come back at that point. One last thing when it comes to communication issues, if everything that we've done so far at this point hasn't worked out, you'll want to go ahead and check your cables, your data cables. Test out your cables, swap them out, make sure you have cables that are actively working. Be sure to check your switches. Usually after network updates, switches forget to get reset. Make sure you have a voltage meter handy as well, because you'll want to definitely check the inputs for where you're wired in to verify that your inputs are working. And unfortunately, if all else fails, you'll need to go ahead and contact your network IT to verify if there's anything else going on. But that's going to be all the basic communication issues that we have going on for you when it comes to troubleshooting communication errors. ProcessNow errors. Whenever you receive an alarm for a ProcessNow error, you'll want to verify the ProcessNow history report. You're going to want to go to reports, then towards the bottom, ProcessNow history. Whenever you're accessing the reports on the ProcessNow history report, you're going to want to go ahead and select the start and end date, 1, and then select the appropriate sequence name that you failed on, and then 3, show the report itself. Skipped ahead, sorry, 1 second here. So in this case, we're looking at a daily sequence, and we're looking at the ProcessNow error for the daily sequence. On the left-hand side to the sequence name, you'll see a little plus sign. If you click on the plus sign, it'll open up the actual sequence name, and it'll show you the task that failed within ProcessNow itself. In this case, we're looking at the stack daily record. To the right, you may have a little bit of information that gives you why it failed, but your best option is going to be clicking on the red error button to the right of the date and time information. That red error message is going to give you a more in-depth error message itself. In this case, we're looking at the UDR error, or the unit daily record, or stack daily record error. The great thing about this error is it does give you all the information as to what you need to look for in order to resolve the error. In this case, the error basically tells you that the UDR record was unprocessed or incomplete because of a missing invalid OOC data flag for, in this case, unit on unit FBC7 at hour 20 on 11/1/22. The other parameters that could be affected are going to be unit on, gas on, and steam flow. In order to resolve this error, you're going to need to access Data Lab and make sure that the parameters listed in the error aren't marked missing, invalid, OOC, or blank. Once you've resolved your issues, click and save without ProcessNow, rerun the daily ProcessNow over the desired period of time, and hopefully that should clear your error message, or it may move on to the next error that it's missing, basically the next hour that could be missing or invalid. In this case, rerun daily ProcessNow again, resolve those issues, verify that they're not missing, invalid, or OOC or blank, and you'll be moving on to the next issue. The next ProcessNow error is going to be error stuck in starting. Run the ProcessNow history report and go down to reports and look for ProcessNow history. And you're going to look for the sequence that's giving you issues. In this case, we're looking at the hourly, and it's stuck in the starting phase. If you look in the bottom right-hand side of the StackVision system, if you look at the the process bar, or the process icon, it'll show that it's constantly running, and you'll see the running icon on the bottom right-hand side. Now, in this case, hourly doesn't normally take very long, maybe a minute or two, but if it takes longer than that, then there's a possibility there's an issue going on. Expand the sequence to see which task is hung up by clicking on the plus sign to the left of the sequence itself. So in this case, the plus sign to the left of the hourly. And in this case, we're looking at the day roll average, which appears to be stuck in the starting phase. This will often be SV dayrec, but it could be SVMP calc parm, SV apply FS, SV cumrec, SV hour roll, SV day roll, month roll, MD sub, condition manager, min to hour, or SV range. Rebooting the StackVision server services will kill any hung or pending process now that's constantly stuck at the moment. Okay, moving on to the rules of ProcessNow. Only run ProcessNow quarter to date. Run it through last night, 23:59. Never run it through the current day. That is to say, never run it through today. Only run it through last night, midnight, 23:59. Never run ProcessNow over a section at a time. For example, if you've only updated ProcessNow for a couple of hours or a day or so, never run it for that specific day. It can cause a number of issues later on down the road. You may not see it right away, but it's a lot of issues that we'll probably have to deal with, and that'll take time from yourself and myself as well. Never run ProcessNow over cross-quarter boundaries either. Like I said, the consequences may not be seen right away, but later on during reporting month is when you might see a lot of these errors. You could see year-to-date errors. You could say reporting period errors. On top of that, you could also see database errors within SQL as well. So if that's the biggest takeaway when it comes to how to run ProcessNow, when it comes to the daily ProcessNow, only run it for quarter to date, never run it over cross-quarter boundaries, and never run it through the current day at that point. Even if you only update a few hours of data, a few minutes of data, just run ProcessNow from the beginning of the quarter through last night, 23:59. That's the best rule to use. And at this point, I'll go ahead and hand this over to my colleague, Quinn.
All right, thank you, Izzy. So the first issue that I'm going to talk about that we see quite often that actually affects StackVision in various ways is just screen display issues. And these issues tend to happen mainly on your client or your own laptop. They will affect a remote desktop session if you remote into the server, which I'll mention how you might have to handle that differently. But mainly this is if these issues on the screen are occurring on your laptop, your physical laptop. So these are some of the common questions we get in support when someone emails in or gives us a call. They'll say, I'm getting an unhandled exception error when I'm trying to load data lab. So I'm just in StackVision and I click data lab and then I get this pop-up. Kind of looks like a Windows error message. It's kind of a vague error message, and this is due to screen display issues actually. And then the next two we get are, why is the report formatting different, or why my reports look jumbled? Why is my screen kind of chaotic? And this is what you see when you're telling us that is you can see that the date and times are all off on the lines. You got data that's also formatting wise incorrect. You have no header. Just the whole screen is just slightly off. And then this next screen is kind of an extreme version that I've seen. I mean, you can't really do anything on here. You just got to close StackVision, and then you'd implement these next two solutions. And these So there's two solutions I'm going to talk about here. Both are independent of each other, but if you try one and it doesn't work, you should then try the next one. You don't have to try them in any order, but you want to try them both if one doesn't work. And we have documentation that we can send out, just PDFs of all these steps. If you don't want to have to write this down or remember, we can send you these articles, or you can grab them from our website as well. And this is just the steps in that document. But the first one is specifically with the StackVision application itself. So you first want to open the StackVision application, or make sure that it's down here on the toolbar. So you'll right-click that StackVision icon in the taskbar, and then you'll get another pop-up window here. And you'll just right-click StackVision again, and then you'll get another pop-up, and you'll want to select properties. And then once you select properties, this next little pop-up window will give you the StackVision properties of the application. You'll want to move over to the compatibility tab, and then from there, you're going to want to look down in the settings section of the compatibility tab, and you'll see a change high DPI settings. So when you click that, we'll move on to another window, and at the lower half, you'll see high DPI scaling override. And then there's a little checkbox for override those scaling behaviors. So you want to make sure that that's checked, and then in this drop down, you see system and in parentheses enhanced. So once you have those settings verified, you'll click OK, and then there'll be another apply, OK, and then you want to make sure that you're completely closed out of the StackVision, and then just reopen and then verify data labs behaving correctly if you got that Windows pop up or your reports look normal. So this is if you have your own laptop. If you're remoting into the desktop, into like the server, and it's not your actual screen that you're playing with the settings, you might not have this high DPI setting, as well as you might not have the standard display settings. So this is the second thing to try if that first solution doesn't work for you. Second one is just the standard display settings on your laptop. Just right click on the desktop, select display settings. You'll get this pop up. You just want to verify that you're at 100%, which is the recommended. A lot of people have it at 125 or 150, and StackVision just won't behave normally under those settings. And then you'll just want to make sure that your resolution is the optimum resolution for the monitor or the screen or monitor that you're using. With people working from home, we have seen these display settings, if you're going from home to work and plugging in and out monitors, a lot of times we've seen these display settings cause issues when you're moving around laptop and screens and just changing the environment you're working in. So just make sure that these settings are at their optimum resolutions and recommended sizes. And like the other version, if you're remote desktoping if you're using RDP session, you typically won't have the ability to change these display settings because it's not your screen, and you don't have access essentially to that screen. And you'll need to plug in at the server. You'll have to make sure that the display settings on there are correct by having someone physically on location change those to the optimum solution. And then just make sure you close out of all StackVision, reopen, and verify functionality again. And if you have any issues, once you go through these, always give us a call if you have any questions. Sometimes there can be more in-depth things that we can take a look at. The next issue that we always get phone calls, I think this is probably my most common call or email, is my reports are missing or blank. And what that typically means is you'll see in the report drop down, my group report generator is my only option, or in the lower left, all I see is none. This is probably the most common. Typically, this is no one's fault. It's just typically an upgrade. Server migration was done. I've seen I didn't touch anything, but they just wiped out the settings. That's no big deal. It's really easy to get back. So to find those settings, you'll want to open up StackVision with configuration. It should just be on your desktop along with the StackVision application, but if it's not, you can just go in the lower left-hand corner and just search StackVision with configuration. And then you'll see this pop-up window here. and then you'll just select the 3 ellipses button, and that'll open up this configuration window. And you'll see if you have multiple sites that you work with or servers that you log into, they'll all be listed here on the left. So if you were logged into support server 34 and that's the one that was causing issues, just make sure that that one's highlighted by clicking it, and then that will fill in all this information on the right. So that auto fills the support server 34, the port, and it should have the report server, which unless you've changed it, it should just auto pull from the server name. But what we care about first is the credentials when connecting to the report server. You're going to want to make sure that the correct user information is there. So if this is blank, the first thing we always do is check this box, and then it'll populate this. If this is unchecked, this is grayed out, you can't edit, so you just got to put the check mark in, and it's going to be the default information. It should pull the server name from up above and report user with a default password, which we have, it's just capital ESC, or capital E, and then lowercase SC reports 1. And then you'll just click OK, and it'll take you back, and you'll just connect to the correct server. And then you'll just want to verify connection again. And if that doesn't work and you still see none, I recommend taking a look and seeing if this URL is correct. And the easiest way to see if any of this information is correct is I always recommend if you know you're the only user with reports issues, is just contact another coworker, see if they have connection and they can see reports, and then just have them follow these steps, or if you have the PDF, just forward it, have them send you a screenshot of this configuration window, and then just copy that information over. And if you don't know what the password is and your coworker doesn't, you can just give us a call. If it's report user, we should know it, and if it's not, it's most likely your IT has, or if you have a DBA, they'll know what the username and password is. But just like we've been saying, if anything pops up with any of this, it's always easy to just give us a call. Typically, we see this stuff often, and we can help out pretty easily. The final error that we see variations of pop up, or just an application start error. And what I mean by that is when you click on StackVision on the desktop, you just get like this Windows error kind of look to it, of just saying there's an error connecting to the client application. And that just means that there's no connection between your client and the server. So one of the things that we recommend is navigating to the StackVision client folder, which is highlighted in red there, and delete the version folders that are listed. So you'll just go to if it's on the C drive, users, if it's user profiles, so for me it'd be Q Lesar, and then I'd follow that path, and then you should see what you see on the screenshot there, and you'll just want to delete any of those version folders available, and once those are deleted, you'll relaunch StackVision to verify functionality. And deleting those client folders, it means that there will be no folder present anymore. So when you click to open StackVision, it should do an automatic update and try to pull the most recent folder from the server, resolving the error. And like the previous error, if that doesn't work, another great option is to get in contact with another coworker or somebody that has a working client. So when they open StackVision, they don't have an error, and have them follow that file path, and then they can copy and send you the file, and then you'll just paste that folder in that location of what you deleted, and then you'll try to verify the StackVision functionality once again. And then from there, if you have issues, that's where I recommend just giving us a call, and we can set up a screen share, or get logged in to the server and maybe grab the folder from the server. But with all these errors, once you go through these steps, and if you're still seeing the same error, that's where I recommend giving us a call. And that is it for me and Izzy. And if anybody has any questions at this time, we'd love to answer them.
Why do you only run ProcessNow for the current day?
Well, no, you don't run it through the current day. You can run it through 2359, And the issue is it can give you errors when it comes to accumulation issues is what it boils down to. So apologize if I didn't make that clear. What happens is if there's an error, if we have to go back and fix something, like say it was in Q4 and something happened in November, it's already the end of the quarter. So you basically just want to go ahead and run it through the entire quarter. You don't want to run it through today's date. Or if something happened, let's say earlier in the week, if something happened on Monday and today's now Tuesday, you don't want to run it through Tuesday. You want to run it from the beginning of the quarter 1/1 through Monday night 23:59. And again, the main issue that you end up seeing in the end is it could cause accumulation issues when it comes to reporting issues. Whenever you start beginning to report to ECMPS and you start seeing those errors, it's just unfortunately the way that ProcessNow runs and how it does its averages as well. Basically, it can cause you issues down the line, and that's something that you really don't want to do.
If there are no other questions, we will end the webinar. Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you Quinn and Ismael for presenting. Thank y'all.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.